Hi everybody, I'd like to talk to you about the Gypsy Jazz Tremolo. It's sort of like playing a drum roll on the guitar, and it creates this texture that people use sometimes soloing, most of the time comping. Like in Gypsy Jazz you tend to have two guitars comping, one playing basic rhythm and the other one playing more interesting rhythm, so it's sort of, it articulates the groove. It's nice to hear sometimes. People that overdo it should be shot. When you're using tremolos, which is a strumming pattern across strings, you can't really, especially if you're playing fast, you can't really hit all the strings at once. Like, that's going to be extremely difficult the faster you go, because the motion, this semicircular pendulum swing motion, is just too wide to be able to do fast across 6 strings. So in reality, you're just hitting 3 at a time. Now think about it like this. If I'm hitting 3 at a time, I can only play 4 sets of strings. I have my floor tom set, my low, mid, my high, right? And then my snare drum. Those are kind of like my drums, and I can focus those tremolos on these areas. So this would be like the E, A, and D, A, D, and G, that D, G, and B, and my G, B, and E. And they sound a little bit different. Now when I start adding chords to it, you start really hearing it. So I'm just going to use a 6-string grip. This is like a C6-9. G, C, E, A, D, G. I'm going to focus it on the low part of the chord real quick. I'm just alternating, right? Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Not even thinking rhythmically yet, just to show you the areas. Then there's the low mid, the high mid, and the high. I'm going to start thinking rhythmically. I'm going to start thinking about sextuplets. The best thing you can do is just play a quarter note and then try to put in the subdivision, because you're going to need to accent that quarter note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So inside there, I'm putting that little accent. Now I'm going to switch between the areas. My low roll, low mid, high mid, high. I get these very distinct different colors, right? So in a tremolo, by the way, the chord is pressed the whole time. Now to make a really good gypsy tremolo, what you really need to think about is the way people play it on drums. So they kind of start from the rim most of the time and move it to the middle of the drum, right? The rim is more trebly, kind of like the bridge, playing next to the bridge. In the middle of the drum, it has more body, kind of like the middle of, the soundboard. If I just move my hand as I'm doing the tremolo, it gets to this thing where it sounds like it's building. You can even go the other way. So like, getting that sound going, the same notes just produce more treble the closer you get to the bridge, more warmth to the middle. But inside that transition, it sort of builds velocity, and that's what you want. The question is, what speed should your tremolo be? And that completely depends on the tempo of the groove. Different subdivisions are going to sound like tremolo in different tempos. If I'm playing on a fast groove, the triplets are already going to sound like tremolos. So 16th notes in these fast tempos also sound like tremolos. pretty cool. Slower tempos, I might have to use 6-tuplets, right? If I'm here. Maybe. Now, you really get into that Django sound when you use the high tremolos on the top 3 or 4 strings, and then you build the intensity. So check this out. If I'm just going 2, 5, I'm using a D minor, G7, Django uses a lot of tremolos too with clusters, like if I'm taking like an E flat and an E, or a B flat and a B. Instead of a 5 chord, you can do it like 1, 5, 1. Now what's really important, you want to respect 2 and 4 even in your tremolos if you can. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And be able to land back into the groove safely. Mechanically, what you really want is to be very, very loose, and it's much less of a forward slant for the tremolo itself. The tremolo really needs to hit the strings in an even plane. So you're really trying to hit it from above in a circular motion. It's very unlike La Pompe. La Pompe is a lot more like the rest stroke in a way. But when you go to tremolo, it's just this kind of quick tickle. And you're not really digging the pick too deep into the strings, or you're going to get a lot of resistance, and the motion needs to be very, very loose. A great thing to do is to think about an underlying rhythm. Django has this song called Improvisation 1 or 2, and there's like a chromatic line there, and then he plays a chord, and he does this fast flamenco-y kind of strum thing, which is sort of tremolo-ish, but it's bum digga 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 dum digga dum digga dum digga 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 dum digga dum. So the rhythm is bum digga 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 da 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 dum da 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 da. It's not just. So I'm controlling the accents. Bum digga 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 da da dum da da da. The hardest thing about practicing quick motions like tremolos is that when you practice them slow, you're using a fundamentally different motion than the motion of the tremolo itself. Because fast is not like slow. You can maybe calculate and simulate it in your mind, but when you just move your hands on the guitar, it feels a certain way. My biggest suggestion for you would be, don't be afraid to make a mess and clean it up. I would say that most people that practice technique practice it with the mindset of practicing something perfectly slowly and cranking up the metronome. And that idea is great if you have 150 years to live, right? But most of us don't actually have the time to see that through. The flip side of that approach is to just try and see where it fails, right? Because if you try it and you make a mess and you have to clean it up, you at least hit the ground running on some fundamental things. A lot of times, teenagers and high schoolers, through the power of their delusion, are making these amazing technical strides, and they get to the age of like 19 and they're already monsters, because being crazy and being confident are very similar. They have a lot of parallels. That low awareness really allows you to throw your hands at the instrument and try things. And then you clean it up with time. Tremolo is something I suggest you first of all try doing fast and ask yourself, what's happening? Am I tensing up? Okay, how do I work on being more relaxed here? Can I make that motion happen, if I do it like that, where do I feel it? Here, okay, that's not right. It's completely loose. So when I try to do it completely loose, what's happening? Am I dropping the pick? Am I hitting the body? Am I playing the wrong strings, right? So those are the questions you need to ask yourself. But in any case, to get good at this quick, I suggest you just try to do it. Hold down a chord and try to make the sound happen. In context, you could do something like... to get you started. Just work on triplet tremolos, slow tremolos like that, and then crank up the speed. Please subscribe to our Patreon. We have lots of exciting content coming out, lots of lessons, lots of stuff there. We have all sorts of tiers for you guys, so choose the one that's right for you. Also, click the like button, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment. We're dying to know what you guys are thinking about everything, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being here.